Welcome back. So we've created our auto scaling group, and most importantly, we have our launch configuration, which is configuring our instances with our instance profile for CodeDeploy. So our instances are ready to go, and we can now perform a deployment to our instances. One thing we need to do is get our service role ARN. So let's go back over to IAM, and let's go to roles. And I'll just search on our service role, and let's click on that, and there is our ARN. So I'm just going to copy this, and finally let's go over to CodeDeploy, and what we want to do is create an application. Call it CodeDeploy demo for ASG for autoscaling. Now our compute platform, and we have three choices. And of course, we're going to choose EC2 or on-premises. And we can click Create Application. We want to create a deployment group looking at our diagram. So let's click Create Deployment Group. We need to choose our service role. For deployment type, we'll just do an in place. Of course, our other option being blue-green. Environment configuration. So what is our configuration over here? Auto-scaling groups. And we need to specify our auto-scaling group. Deployment configuration. And that's a set of rules that determines how fast an application will be deployed, and we want one at a time. Let's uncheck load balancing. We don't have a load balancer. And let's click Create Deployment Group. And then we just click Create Deployment. There's our deployment group. Just taking a look at our diagram, it's called Simple Demo DG. We want to roll out a new deployment, an application revision. So where is our revision? Our revision is in S3. Now, we're using this AWS demo, and we just need to provide the location of our zip file. S3, Amazon.com, AWS CodeDeploy US East 1. Remember that? That's for the Northern Virginia region. Each one of these regions is going to have a different URL. So samples, sample app, linux.zip. So that is the zip of our content plus our app spec file. Deployment description, let's just leave that blank. And let's create deployment. All right, we got a status bar, and that was pretty quick. We have our zip file. It's in our S3 bucket. Just so happens that that's an AWS bucket. If we were doing this on our own, we would just need to upload our zip file to our specified S3 bucket, tell CodeDeploy where this S3 bucket is, and then perform our deploy. So we have a successful deployment, we think. Well, how do we check it? Let's go back over to EC2. Instances, let's click on this instance. Let's get the public DNS and browse to it. And this is going to include a little bit of troubleshooting. Just a nice little added bonus here. This is looking a little sluggish, not looking promising. Now let's think about this. We're trying to browse to our EC2 instance, and it's not looking good. Well, first thing I'm going to think about is our ingress. So let's go back to the EC2 Management Console. And there's our security group. Let's view inbound. There's no HTTP ingress. Well, there's our problem. So let's go to that security group. And let's just note that this is still spinning. And let's go to inbound. Let's edit, add our HTTP ingress. Save. Ah, there we go. So we have successfully deployed. All right. Now remember, we have an auto-scaling group. Let's go back to auto-scaling groups. Let's edit our auto-scaling group. So we want a desired capacity of 2, and that should trigger a scale up. And we have a little thing here. Instances may be in the process of launching. So this is going to go up to 2. So let's go back over to EC2 and just keep an eye on this. And of course, we have a new one spinning up. Let's take a look at this from a different perspective. Let's go back to auto-scaling groups. Let's go to instances. Now, like before, we want this to be in service. This is pretty cool to see here, pending wait. What do you think's going on there? Well, our app is being deployed to our new instance. Let's bounce over to CodeDeploy. Notice we have a deployment in progress, and that is to our new instance in our auto-scaling group. Pretty cool. So that's triggered automatically for us. And the point is, anytime that an instance is spun up in our auto-scaling group, we've configured it so CodeDeploy will automatically deploy our application to those new instances. And just remember, we should have it set up so that our security group allows that ingress for HTTP on port 80. I left that out. It's nice to get a little bit of troubleshooting in these lessons. But with that, we've successfully used CodeDeploy to deploy our application to our auto-scaling group. So thank you for joining me. Let's move on to the next lesson.